Smile, everyone. You all look so depressed. I have everyone muted. So when you first come in, everyone is muted. So just to let you know, if you want to talk, you can unmute yourself, or you can hold your space bar down and that unmutes you also. I'll give everyone another minute before we get started. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on this presentation we did last week. I understand last week was a little bit of a short notice, so I do apologize for those who were not able to make it last week. What we're going to do is essentially a basic overview. I'm not going to, I can show you where you can find how to create and connect your DocuSign account. That is not the purpose of this particular meeting, but I've been more than happy to help anyone that needs assistance with that. This is more of once you've created your DocuSign account and connected it to Command, just some basic tips and best practices that I have found to work since August of last year when I started messing with it. Now I'm going to ask everyone, if you want, you can do a show of hands, however you'd like to do it, but who all is actively using DocuSign now? Okay. What's that, Renee? Unmute yourself. There you go. Now try it.
I've done it a couple times.
A couple times. And the key to this, as it's same with anything in real estate, is practice. Once you've done it several times, a couple times when it's sporadic, you have a tendency to forget. But once you start doing it on a consistent basis, you'll find out that you'll learn how to get past the little nuances that are involved with respect to DocuSign. So I'm just going to do one more thing here. Excuse me. We have a lot of people joining in at the last moment here, so give everyone equal opportunity. Okay, we're going to go ahead. It's now 3:33. We had a 3:30 appointment. We're a few minutes late. I do apologize for those. Did not mean to infringe on your very busy schedules and time, and like to go through this. If at any time I'm going too fast, whether you are on Facebook Live or in the chat in the Zoom room, just kind of let me know that I'm going too fast. You can just let me know. I do know I have a tendency, since I do know the subject matter, to kind of go a little faster than some people may be comfortable with. So I do ask that you keep me honest to that. By the same token, again, this is more of a basics and best, I would say best practices. I'm going to begin with showing you where you can find where to create and connect your DocuSign account to Command. And that's all found in your Command training. And using your Command training here, or, because there's always an or when it comes to everybody. Here with the question mark, which I know is the most underused access or tool that we have in Command, because I get a lot of questions with respect to can I create, connect an existing DocuSign account to Command. For Command, your account it needs to be fresh, it needs to be new. They have a link at the very bottom of this. Can I connect a existing DocuSign account to Command? Here, which you can click and open, and says create and connect your DocuSign account in Command. It's step by step, it's picture driven. To give you an idea, please understand that some of the pictures may be a little outdated. However, the information that's contained within is not. It will tell you with respect to connecting your account, putting your email address in, having the registration email sent to you, the email that is sent to you, and your need to activate your account by creating a password, clicking activate. You're going to sign their customer agreement, clicking that you agree to the agreement. Then you're going to be asked to go back to Command, where you're going to click the authorize button and enter the password that you created for DocuSign, and you will be in. One thing I do want to keep everyone aware of, and most likely we'll see it in this demonstration today, is the authorization only needs to be done once, especially if you're using incognito. Each time you try to access DocuSign, the little authorize window has a tendency to pop up every once in a while. So for today's purposes, we're going to go through. We're going to go to our opportunities. I created a dummy opportunity for a property I found listed here recently. Driver active. No. Yep, if I go to the right one. And it's my favorite buyer, Daisy Duck. Question for everyone. Do you make a tendency to fill out your information with respect to your opportunities, the details tab of your opportunity? The reason I'm asking, of course, having your property here is one thing. Making sure your opportunity name, for compliance reasons, the street address is required for the opportunity name. Going through and making sure that you have the information as best as you can in your details tab of your opportunity to save you work later on. Currently, the information that is contained here, not all of it translates into being populated into DocuSign. I wish I could say it was otherwise. I would be lying to you if I did. Since we're going to focus today on DocuSign, we're going to come over here and go to Documents. With the exception of Waterford at this time, all the, like Nona and Oviedo have, where they have to pick the checklist type. Since we're in a buyer, the checklist that will come up will be for either a buyer of a single family home or townhouse, a buyer of a condominium, buyer for vacant land, a buyer for sale by owner, and then of course buyer for new construction. Those are the ones that are available to you now. The property that I chose was a single family home townhouse. What happens is within your documents tab, or compliance tab as I like to refer to it in training, of opportunities, the checklist of the article or the documents that are needed per transaction do change depending upon which checklist you choose. So you will see what's required, what's conditionally required, and then there are a few places down here for an additional rider or a blank addendums, things that you may need for the contract. This will change whether this is a single family home and townhouse or if this is a condominium or if it's for vacant land. So I just wanted to go over that just for everyone to see. We are going to go back to single family townhouse, single family home or townhouse under contract. Now, I don't know how many people have just DocuSign connected or DocuSign and .loop. However, I do have them both for training purposes. And in order to create a DocuSign room, I will click on Start a Transaction. When I do so, I will select DocuSign. Again, they want us to use DocuSign unless your team and or market center has decided to extend their use of .loop. DocuSign is what you would select. Any questions? Okay. Once I click on DocuSign, it's going to ask me to sign in. And let's see if I can remember how to type it correctly. DocuSign has been experiencing a delay, we'll just say to be nice, with respect to not only just accessing the login, but when trying to add forms. I've had several agents reach out to me over the past several days asking, well, when I click to add a DocuSign form, the screen goes gray and that I don't see anything. I have seen it take several minutes for the window to pop up for you to select the appropriate DocuSign. I've also found that if you're trying to log in and it does not immediately take you into the login, click the login again, and for some reason it seems to accelerate. First place I like to go, the Details tab. The same way that I populate the Details tab with respect to my opportunity, I like to do the same with the DocuSign room. And of course, right before we logged in, everyone, I closed the MLS for God knows why. So my apologies as I log in again. What was it, 12? Was it 1216, 1213? Getting old, 1213 Okra, yeah. The reason I want this information is when it comes time to fill out the information within DocuSign, within the the details, things such as the property ID or the legal description. You may want to have some of this information, what appliances are included, what's excluded, things of that. I want to make sure I have that inside my Details tab of DocuSign. On the left-hand side of your Details tab, that is the transaction related information. Does this have to be filled out? No. Recommendation is to at least have this part here filled out where it says location. I often put in the offered details. The more I put in here, the less I have to worry about later on when I'm actually filling out my forms. I normally do not do the high bid confirmation. I normally don't do the closing details. I may put this in, but this is more internal for me. And the same with the property details. I've already submitted tickets to DocuSign and KWRI asking for the PID, the legal description, and other fields that are commonly used in our contracts to be included in these fields within DocuSign. On the right-hand side, you have a seller 1, seller 2, listing agent 1, listing agent 2, buyer 1, buyer 2, the agent, buyer agent 1, and buyer agent 2. I want to forewarn, especially anyone that's on a team or has assignees, check the email address that they associate with your agent name. I don't use this email, and this would cause issues later on with DocuSign if I try to do anything with emailing myself to sign. So what I'd like to do first is click on the edit. I personally will remove the address from the DocuSign room name. I know the name of the buyer and I know their role. The only reason I do this in DocuSign only is because I've had buyers that will make an offer on one, falls through, they decline, whatever the case may be. There's always a multiple offers with buyers lately. So I make sure at least the DocuSign room name I'm not messing with. I leave it as such. I normally don't have to do any of this. I always put the dollar amount. The offer date, what date am I making the offer? Let's say we're making the offer today. I'm going to make the offer for $215. And we're going to have them put down $2,500 for now for the earnest amount. Local contract amount, local earnest amount, I do not fill out. I'm hoping that they're going to sign by then. Entity holding earnest money. When the listing agent does list the title company, eventually what's going to happen, and I'm going to show you over here by the contacts simply, you'll see what looks like a little fill from contacts. All the contacts that you had in .loop in the past with .loop, any buyers, any sellers, any lenders, any title company, whatever you want to call, will eventually be populated and found in the address book. Currently in the directory, it's KW agents only. However, the plan is to move everyone that you had in .loop over into DocuSign. I do not have a time frame for that. All I know is that is the eventual desire and plan. I'll say the expected closing date. This came from the details tab of the opportunity. The same with the offer date, and the offer date. Financing type. This is all for you. If you want to put this, you can. Because even if I put cash now, when I go to the form, it's not going to automatically fill the cash. So I'll put conventional as I did on my opportunity. And then I can go in here, and for the most part, if I want to fill this in, I can. Any information you want to put, you can. This is completely up to you. It's more for those people who are anal about having things filled. And yes, I'm one of those people that are anal about having things filled. The seller. Let's go over to the seller, get the information from tax records. And it looks like it's Miss Joe Jones Jr., so I'm going to put that completely on there. I really don't need much more information from the seller other than his name. This is not my customer. I don't need to be communicating directly with him. Plus, it's not like it's information that's always given out to you. If you'd like, you could put their mailing address if the tax address was different than the actual mailing address. You can do that. I choose not to because there's enough to fill out without having to do all that extra work. We don't have a seller to. We do know the listing agent. Mr. Montgomery. There he is. And my mouse wants to stop working. You do want his email address. Company. Your company is not Orlando Waterford or Orlando Lake Nona. It's either Keller Williams Advantage 1, Keller Williams Advantage, Keller Williams Advantage 2, or Keller Williams Advantage 3. That's what they want to see on the contracts. For demo purposes, I'm not going to fill out every single field. However, for the most part, if I need the address or if I need information with respect to, we'll just say the brokerage. If you click on the hyperlink in the MLS, it will give you the street address and other numbers you may need for the brokerage. I'm sure most of you already know that, but I just wanted to add that in just in case. The primary thing I want is the agent's name, the agent's brokerage, and their email address. Normally I have myself or my TC fellow behind me fill in the details after the fact. I think Forrest was the co-agent. Yeah, I'll put him on there because if I don't, it's going to bug me. I have the buyer 1. I'm going to give her she needs an email address. In order to use DocuSign to send to someone, they need an email address. I'm going to give her the a@b.com, which is what I use for a lot of test accounts. It's not going to go anywhere. It simply allows me to utilize the function of DocuSign. Again, when I come to buyer agent 1 and I am the buyer agent, make sure my email address is the email address that I want. That would have been funny if I'd have misspelled that. And if it were buyer agent 2, which in this opportunity I'm not showing, I would add there and simply save. What if there are more than 2 buyers or 2 sellers? Those people will be added, and when we get to the envelopes, I'll show you, but they're added in the envelopes. DocuSign currently has a limitation. You have 2 buyers, you have 2 sellers. So if you need to add buyers and or sellers to your contract anywhere, shape, or form, you're going to do that through text boxes and add in the initials and signature fields in the envelopes. Yeah, it's 25 is what I thought. It wasn't 25 feet, it was 25 characters. Once I have the details filled, I may now go to documents. I've also reported to DocuSign the tendency of their error messages to hang around forever. This is my buyer. Anyone that's had a one-on-one session with me knows the first thing I'm going to say I'm going to add. I'm going to add folders. You go to Actions, click Add Folder. The first folder I add to all my rooms, whether I'm the listing agent or the buyer's agent, Forms. The reason that I want a folder for my forms, especially with the buyer's agent or as the buyer's agent, if the buyer makes an offer on more than one property. So if they make an offer, it's rejected, they make another offer. But if I have all these, we'll say 3 properties, all properties are going to be in the same opportunity. As such, they're also all going to be in the same DocuSign room. and I want everything nice and neat so that I know what everything belongs in its place and a place for everything. Now, as the buyer's agent, the next one I'm going to add will be another folder, actions, add folder, and then I'm going to put the number 1 space. I can put Oak Street, however I want to do it. The reason I put the 1 in the beginning, DocuSign has a tendency to want to alphabetize the name of your folders. As such, it will also look at the numbers. I like my folders to be in chronological order with respect to, I want my sellers folders first, then I want the first offer received, and the second, and the third, so forth and so on. So everything is in a folder that it belongs, and everything is in chronological order. So that if you follow behind me in my DocuSign room, you will know what came first and how it came. First thing we're going to do now is add forms. I wish I could tell you this was a one-step process. You have to bring in the broker forms, then bring in the contractual type forms such as the as-is contract, things of that nature. You click on Add DocuSign Forms. Now we wait for the gray screen. I tell you, it may take a minute, so I apologize for that. Leave the DocuSign Forms library as it is. Go to Select Library. Go to the appropriate market center. As I am aligned, my main office is Oviedo. I will select 329. I will have the preferred buyer's agreement. I can do the wire fraud prevention notice. However, I generally do the one that's through Keller, through the Florida Realtors, just to ensure it's all right. Broker's buyer disclosure. This is new, and I'm going to ask the agents that are in Lake Nona or Waterford to look out for it. The wording is notice of brokerage affiliation, not broker. I've already brought this to Murray and German's attention that I noticed in Lake Nona and in Waterford, it did not say brokerage. If it does say notice of broker affiliation, do not use. If it does say notice of brokerage affiliation, that is the one they want us to use. I click add for the broker forms. Everything goes into the catch-all filter of room docs. Next, I need to add forms for the contract itself. Get the hourglass out the time this thing. Oh, thank God. Now we're going to change the top from DocuSign Forms Library to DocuSign Forms Group. Go down to the select group and look for the appropriate folder for the paperwork that you're looking for. In this instance, I want buyer, single family home or townhouse. Now the most commonly used, again, the key word being the most commonly used documents will be contained in this folder. If you remember earlier, I spoke about the wire fraud prevention notice. I wanted this one just to make sure it was right, the correct version. If I want to use the as is, I know that when it comes time for the contract to go through, whether it be this property or another, I do want the buyer's walkthrough inspection and reinspection form. If there is an HOA, that should be provided by the listing agent, so I'll wait to see. I do have a conventional buyer, so I'm going to go ahead and select the appraisal contingency. And I do not believe, what year was the home? 2004, I thought so. My apologies. Of course, this should also be provided by the listing agent. Any of the other, I do not use the escrow deposit receipt verification. However, if you need to have that in your room as a reminder, feel free to add it. Once you've selected all the forms that you want, I'll go ahead and grab a blank addendum just in case. And then I'll go ahead and click add. Now, if you notice, they all are forms. These forms are made to be reused. So if on this one contract, if I were to have 3 different addendums, I would fill this out for the first addendum, have my buyer sign it. Then when the buyer sends it back to me signed, I'll have a flat PDF version of the addendum. And I'll still have the form, which I can reuse for the second addendum if needed, and the third, and so forth and so on. The forms are made to be reused. This is the reason when if I were to go now, if I were 2 weeks into the contract or 2 weeks before closing and I needed another addendum, I would not go to add DocuSign forms and look for the addendum to the contract. I already have the form. Any questions on that? Excellent. Now, I have all these forms. I want them in my forms folder. The one way you can do this is to grab and drag it up. Watch the border, or the blue border around forms go dark. Once it's dark, I can drop it. However, that would take forever with all those forms. This is the one time in the DocuSign room that I actually use the select all button. And the reason I'm saying it's the one time, let's say that I already had documents underneath the 1213 Oak Street, and maybe I had something here. I had documents everywhere. When I select all, I literally select all, including the ones in the other folder. I can clear it if I'd like. You see the little submenu. You will hear me refer to that a lot, the submenu. I will click move. It's now asking me to select the destination where I want to move the selected forms. I'm going to move them to a folder in the current room. It's now going to ask me which folder. I say forms and ask it to move, and it puts all the forms in that particular folder that I want it. Let's go back to his listing. And there's the seller's property disclosure and his contract procedure and guidelines. I want the seller's property disclosure. That will be a flat PDF. So I need to add that. That will not be found in DocuSign forms. that will be found on my computer. It's stored somewhere on my computer. It should be in my downloads. Again, everything that is added to your DocuSign room will always appear in Room Docs. I can click it, drag it up, see how the border around that folder area is dark blue, and drop. Now, I'm going to go to the as-is contract and open it up for purposes here. If you notice, and let me see if I can get it a little bit larger. There you go, everyone. Sorry about the small sizes it comes out as. Certain information has already been auto-filled based off the information that was contained in our Details tab. Since I didn't put, and I'm surprised I didn't, but I didn't put the street address in the Details tab. When you do put the address in, it will have the city zip and it will have the county. It will not populate the tax ID at this time. However, if you see that little yellow window that says optional room.property.tax ID, that means it's a field that DocuSign can make available to us. The same holds true with legal description. So my discussion with them is, if it's available to us, can we get it? You go down, you will see the purchase price has been populated as the escrow has been populated. Any information that I put in the details will populate here. If I didn't put in it, I can go in, check the mark, and say 3 days. And for giggles, we're just going to put and then I would fill out all the information with respect to the address, phone, email for Magnolia Closings. Something I want to bring to your attention. If you notice on purchase price, it says optional dash number. Then it says dash room.offer.contract amount. When it says number, it has to be a numerical amount. This is also seen on appraisal contingencies, where normally we want to put purchase price, but it will not accept balance to close. You can put balance for those agents who so choose to do so. So if you're putting 80% down for financing and you want to put 20% or balance, you can put something there. You don't have to necessarily put a numerical amount. Whereas if it says number, it has to be a number. Yes, Kim, I apologize. I think the internet's been going up and down everywhere lately. If you hover over a field, and if you look, it says optional dash number dash room.offer contract amount. If it says number after optional, it has to be a numerical amount, 215,000. Here where it talks additional deposit, if you see there is no optional dash number, you could put, excuse me, you could put a word such as balance, like I did down here in balance to close. When it has the word number after optional, it has to be a number. It will not take a word. And we're going to tell them we want this. Do make sure when you're putting your dates in, the full 2020, do not put 20. They can go back behind you and try to make it look like something other than. We'll go back to our tax. We'll close that. My mouse does not want to work all of a sudden. This is one time I don't mind the extra space because I like the little gap there between what the property ID and the space they put for DocuSign. And I am not. All else fails, go to tax. So all the information that you normally will fill out for your contracts, if need be, click and paste or click and type. You will see when you can type when the little yellow windows pop up letting you know the field is modifiable. It can be typed into. Again, like I said, if I want to go to the listing and say, these are the appliances that are included. I don't see seeing excluded. One thing I was hoping it would. If for some reason it runs over like it did here, recommendation, take the whole thing out and just move it to the second line. That is one thing I worry about with respect to legal descriptions. You get some of those legal descriptions that look like War and Peace. They're so long, you know they're not going to fit in the first line, and you're not even sure they're going to fit in the second line. So you kind of copy half of it and paste it in there and kind of get a feel for it. I've already asked for them to have an automatic carriage return at the end of their lines. They're working on it. You go through, you fill out the information that you want. I don't want them to assign. It's a conventional loan. They're going to get it in 25 days. They'll say 30 years. Make sure they have that. Go through all the information that you normally would fill out in a contract. Let the seller assign. We'll save 0 for now. Just going through. But go through, fill out like you normally would any other contract. Make sure the fields are filled in as you need them to be. Make sure everything looks correct. And I'm not going to fill anything. Just go through if I needed to. I'm going to have an appraisal contingency, so I need to check the appropriate rider, the appropriate addenda there. One thing you want to make sure, if you do not check, and this is something we're seeing a lot of, they mean to check the HOA and they're checking the homeowner's flood insurance. Please be careful not to check one when you mean the other. So always check it before you send it out to them. I personally put my number there. That's personal choice. You do however you want. I just want to make sure when they do the credit, they're giving it to the proper agent. Click Save and Close. Anytime you make any changes, even if it's simply adding a 0 to a number, any changes, no matter how minute, you need to use Save and Close. If I were to use the big Escape or Close button up there, all the changes that we had just done would be gone. The appraisal contingency. Do you remember where I was just referring to? If it says optional number, you can't type in purchase price. Or let me be a little more correct about that. It will not accept purchase price. As you can see, it's already given me the error, invalid number. If you want to do purchase price, in the envelope, we will add a text field saying purchase price. I haven't made any changes. I'm going to close. Only because now that I know that I missed putting it in there, because I closed it, that's fine. Is it Oak Street, Altamont Springs 32701. What the? You can put this, you can put this. Everyone knows the difference between a residential detached and residential attached. A good example of an attached residential home would be like a duplex or maybe a townhome, something like that. Special circumstances, I always put contingency. It's not needed necessarily, but I want you to notice now that I've put the street address and the county into the details tab and click save, I'll just open the appraisal contingency so that you can see that the address is now there. Same with the as-is contract along with the county. The street address and the county. I go through for the most part. As far as the contract goes, this is the biggest one. Making sure it's filled out. So I know I'm going to have my buyer sign this one. Since we're doing the appraisal contingency, make sure they sign the brokerage affiliation, broker's disclosure. I've already had them sign the preferred buyer agreement. I always like to have the wire fraud. And then the seller's property disclosure. The reason I've done nothing with this PDF is because I cannot make any changes or add anything to it until I am in an envelope. While we're in documents, the only thing that you can make changes to are forms. Once I've selected the documents that I want to have my buyer sign, I will select DocuSign. This begins the process of the envelope creation and filling. Any questions so far? Envelope name. The envelope name is for your purposes only. Why are you sending this envelope to whomever it is you're sending it to? That's it, I'm fired. Sending offer to buyer for signature. I know why this envelope was sent. If I want to get technical, I could say sending offer, for the address to buyer, but I know what I'm doing on this particular instance. The next field, you'll see the documents that are going to be added to the envelope. For the most part, they're forms and one PDF. I'm going to go down to the very bottom where it says message to all recipients. I do leave please DocuSign in the email subject so that if my buyer or seller, if it were a listing, were to come to me and say they did not receive the email or did it go to spam, I can always tell them, please check your email for please DocuSign. Please sign the offer documents for Oak Street. The email message, we're a relationship-based business. That is who we are and that is what we are. Make it a personal message. Doesn't have to be cold, just something simple as Daisy. Here are the offer documents for your review and signature. Please contact me if you have any questions. Make it something personal. Doesn't have to be cold. The next part is we're going to add the recipient to the envelope. Who are we addressing the envelope to? Who are we sending it to? There are three possibilities at this junction right here. You will see one that says email address. This is by far the most manual way to send DocuSign. By that, I mean not only will, if I click email address, I will have to type in the name and the email address of the person that I'm sending to. And when we get to the next step, I will have to drag all the signature and initial fields and date sign, everything over manually, every single one. Room participants is a little less manual. If I click here, it will look at all the people that were listed in the details tab on the right-hand side where we had buyer 1, buyer 2, seller 1, seller 2. It will look and see who all these people are. However, all that does is give me the name and email address. I still have to manually drag the fields over for signatures or initials. If there were no forms in the envelope, these are the only two options you have. Between the two, I would go with room participants. Being that we have at least one form in the envelope, we have the option of pre-tagged roles. I want to send this to Daisy and add select. I want to make sure that Daisy signs the paperwork. Being that I used the pre-tagged roles, you will see, with the exception of the seller's property disclosure, which is the flat PDF here, the DocuSign will put the initial fields, the signature fields, and the date signs where they belong or where they are needed. We are now going into seeing the actual documents themselves and make any changes or anything of that nature that we need. Over here on the left, this could be a drop down. If I had more than one buyer on here, they're color coded, usually yellow, blue, then more like a violet or purple afterwards. But that way, when I start dropping additional persons, such as a third and fourth buyer or third and fourth seller, I could just, when I do that in the previous step with their email addresses, they'll have a color code so I can drop them. On the right-hand side, you can see the different pages and you see the little yellow tab letting you know there's somewhere on that page that either needs an initial or a signature. In all the fields, if you know you want to go see something quickly, you can go to it very quickly using the right-hand side. Over on the left, you have your standard fields, signature, initial, date signed. Where it says name here, this is something that I notice people have a tendency, they need to type in the name, or they think they need to bring a text field over and put in the full name. If I do this and say full name, when this is received by Daisy to sign, this will show the name that's associated with that color, which would be hers. So the full name, where it says name over here, full name, will populate with whoever happens to be that color code and the name that's shown in this window here. I don't need that field. I can click it, come over to the right at the bottom here and click delete. So let's scroll down. Buyer's initial field already there for me. Already there for me. This is the nice part about the forms. It's already done for me. Already there. Already there. And as you can see in these pages where their initials fields need to be, that's all I'm seeing is the initial field for that particular entity. On the last page here, there's a signature field and an initial field. The initial is here. Any place there is a signature field, compliance requires us to have a date signed field next to it. Even if you don't see on the document a date like this, just put a date sign next to it. That's all there is to it. So as you go down, you'll see the buyer's initial. Do you remember I said if I want to put purchase price here, I will need to put a text box here. Shrink the box, but make it look a little prettier. And then I'm going to add it in there. Whoops. Purchase price. And make it read only. As you can see with the forms, for the most part, it's done for you. Seller's property disclosure is not a form. Remember, that is a flat PDF. So when we come to the bottom of the page, the initial field is not there. So this is what we're going to do. There's multiple ways to doing it. I just find this way, I don't know, it's just a creature of habit. All you have to do is click the field. You don't have to click and drag. So if you click it, move your mouse over, put it there. Let's resize it so at least it looks like it's more appropriate for the field. If you notice, I've got that field there now. I'm going to click on here and draw a rectangle or a square, whatever you want to call it now, around that particular field. Then I'm going to copy. Once I've copied that and I go to the next page, I'm going to paste it. Even all I want to do is be on the next page, and it will put the initial field in the general area it needs to be. I may have to move it. I'm going to go to the next page, and I'm going to paste it again. If I need to move it up, that's fine. It's trying to put it approximately in the same place every time. Signature field, however I want to do it. Where it says print, name, that's all you got to do. You don't have to print anything. The name and date signed. Wait for the next one to come up. Wire fraud prevention notice. Puts it there. Now I will point out something that I did get clarification from compliance. I've noticed that on these broker forms, like the wire fraud prevention notice and the buyer's broker disclosure, listing disclosure, anything where it's internal for the Advantage Group, it's putting the address at the bottom here. So I said, since previous solutions did not put that at the bottom, are we going to be required to have this done for each address? Once you get it for the first address, you're fine. You know, hopefully you're blessed enough that the buyer gets the first property they make an offer on, and there's no other properties to be concerned about. However, if that is not the case, if he goes to 123 Main Street, but I have the wire fraud prevention notice signed here, we're good. So no matter what it says down here, you're good. So I did get confirmation of that from compliance. The next step would be for me to actually send this to the buyer. However, let's go up to, let's go, what's that? Let's go here to the broker's buyer disclosure. And let's just say, for example, you're not charging the $395 brokerage fee. Yes, I know I put it in the contract, but let's just say, for example, you need to do a strike through for something in the contract. I want to strike out the $395 or whatever. I want all this. I want that struck out. I will come over here where it says markup tools. Click the markup tool. The only tool there is line. Click on line. Go to the beginning where you want to strike through. Go to the end where you want to strike through. If you'd like to make the line black, make it black. If you want to make it thicker, you could make it thicker. But that's your strike through. So you can do this on any document if you're doing negotiations, you need to do a strike through. There's where your strike through is. Markup tools in line. And that's the basics of the DocuSign with respect to getting a contract. This is an offer. I will admit, we didn't go through every single little detail like you normally would, but I wanted to make sure that you had time not only to see it, but if you have any questions to ask. I'm going to save and close this envelope for now. And I want to show you, I do practice what I preach with respect to my rooms. There we go. This is a buyer, although I seem more like a tour guide. My practice in my rooms, as you can see, there's the number 1 and then the address. If you look at my documents, I make sure I rename them. When they send it back to me signed, I renamed this one by the street address, Writer B HOA, and the fact it was signed. Writer G, short sale signed. Writer M, signed. I always want the street address in my forms or my documents for this reason. If I ever have to send the documents to the lender and or title, when I send it to them, they're not asking me what the document's for because the street address is in the name of the document. Is that pretty clear? I mean, that's my best practice. I've had title and lenders thank me for doing that. Also, I do not, if I were to send, let's say I needed to send this and these 2 documents. If I needed to send them to a lender or to title, I do not use the DocuSign. I use the email function. I put in the email address of the party that I need to send it to, and then I'll put in an email message. The reason I do not use DocuSign to send it to the lender or to title, if I send it to them to DocuSign. And then all I want them to do is receive a copy. So let's just say, if I do this and I say, all I need you to do is receive a copy, so they get a link to download copies of the documents. The second I send it and they receive a copy, when I look at my documents, I will see 5773 Oak Lake Rider B HOA signed all the way down in room docs. The only time I want to see signed is if I'm the listing agent, my seller has signed, and then the buyer has signed. And then I go and I change that to executed. But I do put my street address in the name of the street of the for the offer. When I send it to title and to lenders, they thank me for it. I do use the folders. It came to my attention that it was much easier to send that email to lenders and title that way. But I have found it so much easier to keep track of the documents with respect to if it's the listing agent, for example. Let's go with this one. I like everything nice, neat, and in order. There's my seller docs. There's an offer. There's another offer. There's another offer. There's another offer. There's my forms. So I'm not saying I make folders and I name things simply to say that's what I would do. That's what I do, and I've found it to be great for keeping my head straight. So I'm gonna open it up to questions. Anyone with a question, whether it be on the Facebook Live or on the in the room. And if you want to unmute yourself, please do. Did this help in any way or help you with respect to just giving you the basic rundown, give you an idea? Go ahead, Kim.
Hey, Chuck, thanks for doing this. I have a question. Can you revisit how I have to add a signature on a PDF? So for instance, a buyer consultation.
Okay.
So I need to upload that buyer agreement, which I did. I'm at to the point where I'm adding my buyer. What do I do to get the signature? I'm in the envelope, so I've added it.
Will the signature be added? Are you using the form or are you having them handwrite, or how are you doing it?
I'm going to send it to them electronically.
Okay,
So
the reason I'm asking is my 9,000 test rooms. Let's see. I got so much stuff in there. I don't know what's what.
I think it's a flat PDF, right? Our broker's buyer agreement.
Nope.
Okay.
No. Let me pull up Daisy here since she was the buyer. The broker's buyer agreement, the preferred buyer agreement.
Yes.
So if you fill out the details, and the only thing you might be able to fill out at that time is going to be what? Their name.
Yep.
So
And
it
it's not even
will,
on there.
and all they need to do is sign.
Okay.
So once you've filled out the details with the form, it knows what field belongs where.
So I don't have an address. Does that form have to have an address?
Nope, does not. That's just it. we didn't have to have addresses before.
Okay.
And be honest with you, if you're getting to sign the preferred buyer agreement before you even look over, I mean, if you're blessed and they already have a property in mind, that's great. However, we know that not all of them come that way. So and that was something that I just noticed, because I'm trying to make all our lives easier, because just like you, I'm just an agent trying to, do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And I was like, this was never here before. And you know what I was talking about when I said the previous solution, this was never here in .loop. This was never here with the address being appended to the documents. So I said, the last thing we need is pound law coming in and saying, well, this preferred buyer agreement was for this address. So I did ask Murray, and Murray asked Sally, and we had a conversation about it. I said, it was never there before. If I get them to sign the preferred buyer agreement and they just happen to have an address already in mind, I don't need that being something that's going to be a game changer or a breaker.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Now I will go, let's just say where's the as is? Because I know that Omar had asked earlier, and I'm sure a few other people wouldn't mind seeing, what if there were 4 buyers? Do you remember everyone remember when I referred to the submenu in the Documents tab? You see where this says Document Actions here? It's the same submenu. I just selected DocuSign. And I'm going to go with pre-tagged roles. And I'm going to say Daisy, and I'm going to say someone with an email address just to be the second person. Forrest, you get to be the second buyer. I want 2 buyers. The reason I'm wanting this is when we get to the next part, it's already going to have 2 names on there, 2 names for the buyers. It'll be Daisy and Forrest. Now let's add someone else. Sorry, Kim, I'm butchering names today. And add another recipient. Let's use one of my 6 million email addresses. Again, I would name the envelope name. Why am I sending this? And by the same token, add a personalized message. Email, the email subject, make sure they know what it's for. The email message, here are the documents, please review, contact me if you have any questions. When I click next, depends upon, Kim asks, is there enough room to add the power of attorney info after last name? There are character limits. I know that for a fact because one of my rooms, we do have that. I believe the character limit is 73 on the name. So just be careful, because I did have one that just went on and on forever. So since I didn't add the names in the details. However, if you look now, I have the different persons. We'll make Forrest, we're going to put his name here. Who's next? That goof right there. And the lovely Kim right there. What I want you to notice is all 3 have different color codes. When I go down to the initial field, it did add one of us, but it did not add. It added Forrest, because when I added Forrest, he was already in the room as a participant, so it knew what to do here. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put initial for me here, and I'm also going to do it twice. You're saying, well, you forgot Kim. Let's say I want to make this one here Kim. I can select it so it's highlighted, come over here and make that Kim. Then I would go down for what I added, copy and paste, and go for all 12 pages all the way down. But that's one way to add the third and fourth buyer. Same holds true for third or fourth seller. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Chuck.
Go for it, my man.
So right there where you have full name, when you send that over to the buyer for signatures, will they have to fill it out, or will it be already filled out?
It's not going to show it right here, but when it's sent to them, you remember mine was in the middle.
Yes.
It will show right here. Let's see what color we all know. Purple. This will show Chuck Morris. This one will show Forrest Mead. And then this one will show Kim Garcia. So whatever name you see displayed here by the color, this will not say full name. It will say Forrest Mead.
Got it. Thank you.
Purple will say Chuck Morris, and we'll say the marine green is Kim Garcia. It will display that. So you don't have to go over here to text and try to fill it out. If you can avoid text, I would definitely avoid text at all costs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm not seeing any questions right now.
Yeah,
There you go. Go ahead.
Uh,
Hey, Sajid, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you? Hey,
All
this
right.
is my first class. I got some of them, but I have a lot of confusions. So
How can we help clarify, sir?
yeah, can I call you personally and get some of information?
Do it. Can you do it tomorrow?
Not now. Whenever
Yeah.
you're free.
Oh yeah.
And,
Do you have my Calendly link by chance?
I think so. You
I'll-
send me
you
an
know-
email and I'll pick it from there, or I will.
What I'm going to
contact
do, everyone, is for anyone that needs, I'm still available. I'm still doing one-on-one sessions in Mentor. So I want to make sure everyone has my link. I'm putting it in
message.
I put it in the chat, and I'm also putting it into Facebook Live.
Yeah.
If anyone needs it, then of course, being that we're recording, I will also make sure that that the recordings are available. But anyone that needs to schedule one-on-one, I try to be there. I'll try to be there for every one of you as best as I can, understanding that by the same token, I am too trying to run my business, and I will sometimes be a little slow especially if I'm doing. I got a lot of buyers right now, so there's most of them are first responders. When they say they have time to go, we go. But I will get back to everyone as soon as possible if you ever have any questions. And then Sajid, if you need to, let's set up a one-on-one session.
Yeah. And I have a question now.
Go ahead.
So in the inbox, why the contract this seen in a different I can see the different pages. So when you go to the main page, so no, again back.
So you're talking about here?
The documents. So why do you see multiple documents? So
I see.
why don't we see it in a single document? So it was in the beginning, it was like you have to go back, I believe, again back. Yeah, these documents, like
I want them this
yeah.
way right now. I want
Yeah.
them everything this way. If I were to send anything, and for those who do use DocuSign, a neat little trick. If you have set up your inbox, if anyone's been to class when we were holding the classes in the Market Center, if you were in class and you remember, and give me a second, Sajid, I'm getting to your answer here.
Yeah, I never been to the class.
The email address that's here is the one that I set up, my personal email address for DocuSign.
Yeah.
I can send an email or forward an email with the PDF to that mailbox. However, if I go and put the room ID, so when I forward the email with the PDF, I'm going to send it to thechuckmorris@mail.docusign.net. if I put with the hashtag this room ID in the subject line of the email, when I forward it, the email will send the PDFs and they appear in Room Docs. You don't have to go to your inbox to find them. Let me see if I can find
Yeah.
something with the PDF. Just
So everything will go in a stretch in an email. You don't have to send each document individually.
right, everything. If I want to send all that, if I want to send every one of those forms and everything that's in there one time, I don't send one document at a time. If I sit down with my buyers, they're signing everything there.
So in a single click, you can send everything. You don't have to send each individual document separate. You can send everything in a single.
There you go. Everything in one single swoop.
Okay.
I'm on my other screen right now. I'm going to copy that room ID and come over here, and I'm forwarding an email. It's nothing to do with this. This is a test buyer, but just to let you know that I forwarded the email to thechuckmorris@mail.docusign.net. I took this room ID so that when I refresh, it should show in the room docs. That's another reason I don't want anything in room docs, is because it's the catch-all for everything.
Okay.
Lawrence has heard me say that enough times that he's probably sick of hearing me say that. Yep, it was sent. Okay. There you go. So this was a seller net sheet that we sent to someone for, I think it was the condo they just called us about today. But see, I didn't add this by putting it on my computer and then uploading it. I simply forwarded the email to my DocuSign inbox and then added the room ID.
Okay. So everything will go at a stretch.
But if whatever I select, if I want to select every one of these, and again, this is where you notice, I remember before I said I don't use a select all for everything except one time. And that's normally when I'm loading my forms. See, when I did select all, it selected everything, including this, which had nothing to do with it. But if I wanted to send all these Sanjeev at one time, they're all going to be in an envelope that I create. Every single one of them.
Okay. Okay.
You want,
Gotcha.
once you know
Gotcha.
everything's filled out the way you need it to be filled out, send it all at once. Because the last thing you want to do is have 12 documents for your buyer to sign or initial and send 12 separate emails.
Okay.
But this is 10. Go ahead.
Once they sign,
Once they sign,
DocuSign, will a seller also get a copy?
that depends on how you want to set it up.
Okay.
So with respect to that, what I would do is, being that I'm comfortable with DocuSign, when I send this to my buyer to sign, so when I send this to Daisy Duck to be signed, and I know this information is everything's good, okay? Once I'm assured everything is good, what I normally will also do is I'm going to add to this the pre-approval letter.
Okay.
Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to add an email address by going room participant, because I already have the listing agent there.
Okay.
I'm going to change. If you notice, there are numbers in front of these boxes here. This is the order the emails are sent out. I'm going to change the listing agent to 2. So Daisy will get the email. She has to sign. Once she's signed, I want to make sure Steve receives a copy of the email immediately. So I make sure all the forms that I need to have are there. I'll add the pre-approval letter within the DocuSign, make sure it's a PDF. You don't have to do anything to the pre-approval, just simply add it, send it to your buyer to sign, or if you had 3 buyers or whatever the case may be, then make sure you add as the last person to receive the email, the listing agent, and I could add both Steve and Forrest if I needed to, and I want them to simply receive a copy. They'll get an email with a secure link to download the documents.
After the signature or
After
even before?
after Daisy signs everything,
Okay.
she has to do everything that's been sent to her. Once she's signed everything, it then sends a copy, and I presented my offer in one fell swoop.
Okay.
I'm lazy. That's why I want to do it.
No, you're not lazy. You're spending a lot of time. You're not lazy at all.
Oh, trust me, I'm lazy. I'll find a way to make all our lives easier if I can. I'm working on the robots now.
Mhm.
All right, I think Joe had a question. Joe, can you unmute yourself and let me know with respect to your question on the listing side?
Yeah, it looks like we very thoroughly went through the process for everything on the on putting the documents up for the buyer. And I'm sorry, I came in a little late.
It's okay.
Go through a similar step-by-step, baby step thing for the
listing?
yeah,
Okay, let's do that.
beautiful.
I'm going to do this real fast. Make sure I know which ones are my test rooms and which ones aren't. That's why I'm looking to see. You only want so many test rooms. They don't care, to be honest with you. They really don't. Anyone watching, do not do what I'm doing. I'm going to assume, Joe, that we've already got the opportunity in command. Can we go through that part?
Yes.
We skip that. We come in here. We're going to create a new, and I'm going to call it, whoops. It's going to be called, he can type today. Yeah, I'm the agent owner, and we're the, I don't want, I actually do put pictures with mine. For the most part, I will do whatever I can to put pictures. Kind of reminds me of dot loop. I always wanted to see a picture so I remember which house it was. Now, what part did you come in? And I'm just wanting to make sure I know exactly what part you came in. With respect, did you go over with the details?
Yes.
Okay. Well, for you, it's basically the same information. Of course, you're not going to have the offer details. However, any information that you could put in about the property, you of course will know seller one, seller two, and then listing agent one, if listing agent two, if applicable. So I always fill out my details first. So,
okay. So it's essentially the same.
It's the same thing, except now when I go to documents, what's the first thing I said I do? I won't see if anyone chimes in. It's the first thing I do when I get to documents. Add forms. Even for a listing, I still do the same thing. Actions, add a folder. Like I said, I start with one and then put a space so that I know. And if you recall, when I showed you my two rooms, there was the one that was a listing. I have seller docs and the offers after it. Or if it's a buyer, it'll be one, whatever that address is, two, the next address, three, and so forth and so on. So I do that habitually.
Got it.
Now, with respect to listings, let's click add, and let's pray DocuSign opens up a little quicker. DocuSign forms. Let's go mow the grass, cook supper, build the shed in the backyard.
Do a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. Find the cure for cancer, find the cure for COVID. Release it again.
Now, while we're waiting, quick question. What if I've already created my documents in and filled them all out in .loop? Do I just download them from .loop and then upload them here?
No. Well, let me ask you this. When you did you start a transaction in Command and did you link it to .loop?
Yes, I did. Well, it was automatically. I was surprised to see that
Okay.
it automatically.
Is your DocuSign account created or connected?
Yes.
Okay. But if you just clicked it, probably by default it's using your .loop, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And everyone, take a little sidebar for a second. This is from my friend Joe. When I go to add a file, you probably will see .loop.
Yes.
Click .loop and look for the file.
Got it.
Now, one reason, and I guess you could say this would be good for everyone, the one reason that I like to create the folders like I do you notice that, and I can't believe that I actually got KWRI to do it. What folder? Remember, the only thing that was in my, if you'll say the initial offer folder was the seller's property disclosure. What folder? All the forms that I had in there.
Got it.
But it looks and finds what's there. But yeah, you can use .loop and look for it as long as you know your naming structure. All right, same thing. We're going to leave it at library. You're 645 or
647.
647? Okay, we'll go 647. So we got the broker's list and disclosure. See how yours says broker affiliation?
Yes.
Do not use. We cannot use that yet. I don't use this, but we'll put it in there as a quote unquote placeholder. And we could use this, but I'd prefer the one that's in the next folder.
Can I ask something about the net sheet? This is a digression also. We obviously, we don't have all the information, all the numbers for the net sheet. Do we partially fill those out when we do fill them out, or is there any?
I actually have a PDF that was given to us, good Lord, 7 years ago that still applies today. Oh, you asked me now. I got to look for it. Give me 2 seconds. One of those people, once you've asked me now, once you got me sidetracked like squirrel.
We're going down a rabbit hole.
It's me. My wife's over here just shaking her head saying he's an idiot. KW forms, yeah. Where's that? Where's that? Okay, there it is. Let's see which screen it opens up on. Probably the wrong one. Let's see. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, here we go. Let me get it moved over there. I don't know who else uses this also.
Oh.
So I put in the date, put in who it's prepared for, and the property address. I can put the estimated taxes. So let's just say it's the sales price is going to be 300. Make sure I put enough zeros or too many. Let's say the estimated taxes were, I don't know, 2,800. And we anticipate that we're going to have the house sold in June, or by the end of June, we'll just say. So it gave me the estimated closing costs. It did the prorated taxes for me. Let's just say I do know the mortgage payoff. If I don't, I don't. That's the reason this is called an estimated net sheet.
Yeah.
However, let's say the mortgage payoff is 150. They're almost paid off. Gives them their estimated net to seller. So this looks great, but but hey, I need something they can sign. So when I go to print this, it looks like that.
Ah.
So if anybody wants a copy, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to share it with you.
Wonderful.
But what I do is once I do this, I change the name. I save it as an Excel spreadsheet and put, whatever the buyer or the seller's name and the price or whatever the case may be, so that I always have the master.
Yeah.
And then I can just print this out. I can put it in DocuSign. I can put it in .loop. I can put it in their hands and get a signature.
Sweet. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Don't save. No, I don't want you changing the master.
Don't overwrite your master.
That's all right. I've got a backup of it too. Now let's go over and let's get the, if I'm going to say, I was like, why is that so large? I'm blind. Even I can see it. Wait for it. Well, here we go back to the shed. Watch the grass grow, paint dry.
Da, 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 dum, 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 dum.
There goes my child graduating college. There goes the other one to college, and she just graduated. Oh, let's see. Oh, this could
Well,
not
it's
get
good
it.
to see this because otherwise, you know, if I didn't know what was going on now, there'd be a temptation to close this all out when it's this slow.
Yeah, this started last week.
Okay.
This literally started last week, and it's funny because KWRI, I have a thing about sending them like 9,000 videos a week. It seems like I'm the guy that at family reunion they almost kind of hid because they know my they know my voice, they know my face sitting there looking at them. What do you got now? All right, let's change it to group, and then we'll say, is this a listing for a condo? Listing for single family home? Listing for vacant land? What kind of listing?
Oh, me? Yeah, single family. Single
Okay.
family. Sorry.
Now, for everyone that's looking and they're asking, kind of wondering, why do I have duplicates? This is for Oviedo. This is for Lake Nona. Probably if I was doing this tomorrow, you'd see the third probably for Waterford. But being that I'm helping each. So let's say there's an HOA, we need the lead-based paint, there's exclusive right to sell. Even if you don't need a modification, I'd rather have it and have to go look for it later because God knows if you try to load a form next week, it may take twice as long. Are they looking to list it within 5 business days?
Yes.
Okay. We need the residential listing form. I personally don't use the form that's in DocuSign. I actually fill it out in Transaction Desk because I found that if I fill it out in Transaction Desk, most people don't realize is if you fill it out there, you can also upload it. It automatically creates an incomplete listing for you. So you type it in once and it's in 2 places at once. Seller's property disclosure, wire, let's put that there, we need it. Add them all. I select them all, submenu to move. Sorry, I'm moving so fast. I know, I apologize.
All right. I'll go over the video later.
There you go. Like I said, it's more applicable for buyers than sellers.
Yeah.
However, the forms forms are reusable. If you go and you get one signed, then you realize he goes, you know what? No. I didn't agree to 300. I wanted it 325.
Mm-hmm.
You can go in the form and change it 325.
Okay. And then would it have to be re-signed, I guess? Or re-signed?
A second, my internet just went blunky. Sorry for that, everyone. Internet's old, or is it me? One of the two.
It's that 300 baud dial-up connection.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the dial-up. I'm still waiting for the handshake here. Do you remember we put nothing in details?
Yes.
Just for giggles, I want to show you this. Now, this is going to take 400 years to open. Any changes you make here. So we just say that we're going to say the price is 30,000 or 300,000. I'm sorry. Save and close. Save and close if you make any changes. Exit if you don't. We just made a change. Guess what I just did? I changed. Where's it at? Come on.
Up.
There it is. To 300,000.
Nice.
So when you change something in a form, it updates the details.
Sweet.
And the funny thing is, not only does it update the details, but anywhere that particular field is found in another form is updated also.
Great.
So it's a nice catch-all. The same thing applies once you have everything signed that you want to fill out. DocuSign and send. Everything is exactly the same with the respect to how the envelopes are created, the way markups or strike throughs are done, everything is exactly the same.
Wonderful.
Nothing's different. And yes, there's some parts that are a little more manual than dot loop. I do understand that, everyone. However, if we work with them, remember, this is as bad as it's ever going to be.
Mhm.
Let's just work with them and have patience, and we'll get so used to this that we'll forget all about the other people. So any other questions? I know that we ran over time, but like I said, this was for us, because every time I get to speak to you, I learn also. So I do thank each and every one of you for being here, and I thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your valuable time out of your day to just spend with me and to have me go over this with you. I hope that you found this informative and it helps you in some way. And if you do want a copy of that Excel spreadsheet, the one that I shared with the net expense, let me know. I'll be more than happy to send to everybody. And with that, I thank everyone again, and send me your email for a copy, and we are going to